The Phoenix Suns just came off from one of their best years in franchise history. For the last 10 years, they have missed the playoffs, and from the departure of Steve Nash, they just haven't been the same team. They haven't had that franchise player and haven't made the playoffs. But everything changed in the offseason 2015, where in the draft, with the 13th pick, they selected Devin Booker. Now, D Book for the next couple years would be a really good on his stats wise, but as the Suns team in general, they seem like they were one piece away. They collected some really good young players in DeAndre Ayton in 2018, Mikal Bridges in the same draft, Cam Johnson in 2019, and they got some really good young players, but it seemed like they were that one vet away, and that happened in this offseason 2020 with Chris Paul. Now, Chris Paul just had a season with a redemption season with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And with them trading Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, and about a first round pick, they landed CP3 and he changed the whole team. The development of Ayton, Bridges, and Johnson increased dramatically, and Devin Booker was still their franchise player. So, they made the second seed and made it all the way to the finals before losing to the Bucks. But a lot of people have questioned, will the Suns be back? Will they be a perennial Western Conference finals team, or will it be like the 2020 Miami Heat where they make it to the finals one year, but just a fluke and get eliminated early the next season? So let's talk about it. First, let's talk about their playoff run. So they first faced the LA Lakers, who were injured, and even though I'm a Laker fan, I'm going to be unbiased, but if Anthony Davis was healthy, the Suns would have lost. With AD healthy, LeBron healthy, they were up 2-1, and I think that with AD, they just couldn't stop him. And now, of course, the Suns faced what they had in front of them, so they beat the Lakers, which was still super impressive. Then they faced the Nuggets, who did have an injured Jamal Murray, but they were able to sweep the Nuggets, which was also really impressive. They then faced the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals without Kawhi Leonard, and they beat them in 6 games. So as you can see, every team they faced in the West kind of had one of their best players out for a majority of this series, and it's still impressive that they beat who they had in front of them. They can't change other teams' injuries, and they faced what they had in front of them, which is good, but they still made it with a lot of injuries. And with next season, if there's no injuries, it's going to be a lot less likely. They, of course, lost to the Bucks in 6 games, but still an impressive run. So first, what do they do in the offseason? They re-signed Chris Paul to a 4-year, $120 million deal. Now you might think, oh, that's so much money for an aging point guard, but if you look at the contract more just in depth, I think the last 2 years aren't fully guaranteed. So I personally think that CP3 won't regress in like 2 or 3 years, and those are the only years that are guaranteed. So if he wants to be traded, if he wants to be like cut or something maybe, then those like $30 million in his last couple of years, $40 million, they're not guaranteed. So yes, it looks not the best on paper, but if you look deeper on it, it's actually not that bad. They of course signed Cameron Payne to an extension and signing Chandler Hutchinson, JaVale McGee, and trading for Landry Shamet. So can this team get better from last year? Well, first, we have to look out their young players. Devin Booker, I think, can break out as an All-NBA level player. Definitely an All-Star lock. And I think that these playoffs, he dropped 40 points twice in the finals, which is so impressive. And I think he can break out as a 27 point per game scorer, potentially an All-NBA player, and proving that he's not he doesn't get empty stats. As long as he has a good team around him, he can contribute to winning. Then you have DeAndre Ayton, who I think might take the biggest jump out of this whole team. Ayton had a monster playoff run, and I think made like history with like his efficiency, his points, his rebounds, and he was just a consistent presence on both ends that they needed. Now, I would like to say that Ayton kind of gets like 95% of his buckets from assisted, which is kind of concerning as like relying on your point guard isn't very good. You can't be like a Jokic or Embiid where you can get your own bucket as a big guy, but Aiden definitely needs to take advantage of his strength, his brute strength with the build like David Robinson, but he just uses it like he is like like a Steven Adams but more athletic, which is still good. He's still averaging like a double-double, amazing efficiency, good defense, but I think Aiden has so much more potential. Then we have their two wings in Cameron Johnson and Mikal Bridges. Mikal is one of the best 3-and-D players in the NBA, and I think he can take another step to averaging like 16, 15 points a game, still having their defense. Cam Johnson, I think, can be another guy off the bench that they can rely on. Cameron Payne can take some extra steps. Dario Saric will be out for the whole year, but I think with them signing JaVale McGee, them having Frank Kaminsky, it isn't that bad. Jay Crowder is always a good vet that can hit a couple threes. Landry Shamet, Jalen Smith, some X factors that they can rely on. So answering the question, will the Suns be back? Well, if I had to tell you, I would say no. Like, back to the finals? No, but I think they still have a chance. I don't think Chris Paul is going to regress. Devin Booker ain't getting worse. DeAndre Ayton most likely will take another step. And I think that even with the Lakers, the Warriors getting better, I personally think that the Suns are still a legit contender that can compete with those teams. And just, I think that people are still sleeping on the Suns. Now, can they beat a fully healthy Lakers team? I would say no. Can they beat a fully healthy 90% Klay Thompson Warriors team? Probably not, but that's probably not what's going to be that's probably not going to be in front of them. There's still injuries that can happen. I don't want injuries to happen to anyone, but I don't know. I mean, this Suns team still has so much talent, and they're still so young. They have a good blend of vets, young players, and I'm still really high on the Suns. I think they will be a top 3 seed. I think the Lakers will kind of not put their hardest in the regular season. I think the Warriors will be pretty good. The Jazz will be good in the regular season, but I still think that the Suns can be a team to beat, a team that still is the Western Conference Finals winners, and they still have one of the best coaches in the NBA in Monty Williams. He, in the Western Conference, those whole 3 series, Monty was the best coach in the whole West, and yes, he kind of didn't do the best building a wall against Giannis in the NBA Finals, but he was pretty much, he hasn't been a head coach in several years, and I think that with his mentality, the way he speaks, I think he will learn from that and knows what to do in the future. And I think that can be big for this Suns team. And I think that there still is a chance they can progress to an even higher level, with also a possibility of them getting worse, because maybe Aiden, Bridges, Johnson won't take the steps that we expect. Maybe Chris Paul will regress a little bit. Maybe he have some injury issues. Hopefully he doesn't. Maybe the Lakers, Warriors are just too much for them. But I still believe in this Suns team as a championship contender that I would put my money on to at least make the Western Conference semifinals, and a good chance of making the Western Conference Finals. And this Suns team is still so good, and I can't wait to see how they perform in the regular season. Will their young players take another step? Will their vets still be consistent? And how they will perform in the playoffs.